Hello, thanks for joining us on the program. Well, the subscription TV advertising sales body, MCN, has again been holding its annual upfronts for media buyers in Melbourne, Brisbane and Sydney. And aside from new content, 2015 looks set to add to all the technological changes that were seen in 2014 that seems to be changing the face of the ad trading market. MCN launched its new landmark trading system in March. It's also expanded its multi-view research panel from 10,000 homes to 110,000 homes. But there's more to come. Our co-host James Manning, the editor and publisher of Mediaweek, was there at the MCN upfront event. Just remind us again what these are all about.
Yeah, well, we've talked to everybody, I guess, knows about general upfronts, but Foxtel have a content upfront. MCN really focus more on the advertising. They used to share a bit of the content news with Foxtel, but now the MCN one is more about the MCN offer, the research, the sort of the landmark. It's all got a little bit technical and what they can offer this year, which we'll talk a little bit about in a minute. But yeah, one of their big pushes is all about the research they offer their clients, their media buyers, the advertisers advertise on all the different Foxtel channels.
Yeah, and there was quite a bit, obviously, to look at. And one of those things that you were speaking to the MCN CEO, Anthony Fitzgerald, about was the increase in the multi-view panel, talking about the scale that brings, and certainly the fact that now with 110,000 homes, it's what, 85 times the size?
It's a lot bigger than Ozcam and offer, and gives a lot more detail.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's have a listen. This is James's interview with MCN CEO Anthony Fitzgerald.
That scale allows us to do two things. One, it's significantly more accurate, which is important. But the two things beyond that is it allows us to match databases and to aggregate our database with other databases, such as grocery data and other consumption data and financial data. And further to that, and I think more importantly, it allows us to actually tailor-make segments specifically for an individual advertiser to target our audiences far more effectively than has ever been the case before. Now, at the moment, our multi-view panel is delivering us about 450 specific segments, but then we can tailor additional segments to suit the advertiser's needs and to target their consumer, as I said, far more effectively at scale than has ever been achieved before in this country.
Is that as big as you'd ever need a panel? I mean, are you at a scale now where that's going to give you as good a data as you'd ever want?
We could rest there, but we won't. Our goal is to move from 110,000 homes to somewhere closer to 200,000 by the end of next year, and ultimately to go beyond that, 300, 400, 500,000 homes. And in due course, as more homes connect to broadband through our Foxtel IQs and IQ3s, we will want to switch on all of those homes so that we're able to then get a much more robust panel size that allows us to do even more interesting things in matching data sets, and matching data sets that go beyond just television into online.
Let me ask you about that content. Foxtel's hoping that'll be going out to a much bigger audience soon.
Yes.
We've just seen the price cut, I think November 3. Look, Richard Freudenstein said this week, look, it's been going pretty well.
Yes.
Still a bit early for any hard data, but what are agencies asking MCN about the impact of that on their business?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it is a bit early to be able to suggest that we have any meaningful trends, but the early signs are very good. Sales for an inquiry for our new service is beyond expectations, so that's all looking good. And what it means for advertisers, and the key point that advertisers are talking to us about, is that the growth in subscriber numbers delivers, again, for them two things. One will be an increase in audience, and we already have a significant audience base, so we'll be able to grow that further. But I think importantly it increases our reach capability, and that's probably one of the key things as we move beyond the current subscriber rate, and not just in homes but in people, that allows us to give a significantly greater reach to advertisers than is the case today.
Yeah, now we're seeing the free-to-air survey year ending, and you don't have a survey year, you roll on all the time, but we're seeing sort of downward pressure on audiences there.
Yes.
You feeling that at MCN, or is there still a big audience out there, they're just watching differently?
Well, there's still a huge audience out there, and I think for both free-to-air and certainly subscription television, let's just think about television overall. There is a huge audience for television, linear television, for a long, long time to come. I think one of the things that probably does need to happen over the next year or two, particularly with some of the big franchises that have been around on free-to-air television now for some time. There's probably, and I think we're all chasing this, that next new big hit that's going to set the television world alight. And all of these things, particularly with television audiences, they're cyclical. So, you know, I believe very strongly that the next big hit is only around the corner, and that'll reignite television audiences viewing overall. We're very happy with our viewing. There is no doubt that there's an ongoing shift between live viewing and into VOD services and other. But the total amount of time spent watching video content is growing. And that's a great market to be in. You've got to get the content right, you've got to get the technology right, but it's a great market to be in.
Talk to you quickly about revenues. We've seen MCN post some pretty significant year-on-year growth over the last decade.
Yes.
What's this year going to be like for you?
This year's been tough. It's been a tough market overall. The advertising market's had some really difficult comparison numbers year on year, month by month for the June half and indeed the December half. Last year, big spending government, an election. There was a number of big sporting events that didn't occur again this year as they did the year before. And of course, it's a pretty tough economic environment, both locally here in Australia and globally, and there's a whole lot of other political turmoil happening in other parts of the world. So it's been a bit of a challenging market, and I don't think anyone can deny that. Looking into next year, I think we'll see stronger market conditions overall. It'll be off a slightly lower or flat base, but I think we'll see better conditions, and those businesses that perform well in that environment, I think will continue to be successful.
Rupert Murdoch confirmed last week that, look, Foxtel has been having a chat to Network 10 about a possible link-up. Discovery's all been mentioned as a player. I mean, let's just ask you a hypothetical. If Foxtel got management rights to run Network 10, would that mean MCN would have the take over the advertising?
Nothing
You're going to answer that
in that question. Let me just say I don't comment publicly on speculation, James.
James has been getting a bit of that. Well, let's get to the view of media buyers, of course, to this. And we're joined by Danny Bass, Chief Investment and Intelligence Officer of Group M. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Just first I wanted to ask you how you find the upfront, the MCN upfront, as opposed to, say, the other ones that you attend.
We saw the view. So that was fantastic. Oh, look, it's great. I mean, MCN are very strong at that. The fact that they do it in an environment like the house in Mosman, as opposed to a big theatre or a cinema or some of what the other guys do, has a real intimacy to it. It's personal. It's for each individual agency, and they tailor the message to that agency. So it's strong, it gets through, and it resonates well with their agency buyers.
Danny, we've seen the past few years MCN sort of outpaced the market in their revenue. We've seen subscription TV dollars slow down a little bit this year. Is that because they're getting to sort of a level where they should be in return in relation to their audience share, or is it part of a general overall slowdown of ad spend?
I think all media channels need audience growth. That's not beholden just to subscription TV. What we look for is who those people are. So tell us about your audience, who they are, where they are, what they do, so we can serve the right ad to the right person at the right time, and as a media agency for the right price.
And it was interesting, I mean, James, too, I mean, looking through all of the technological change that we saw, I mean, talking about this landmark and the multi-view panel changing and Adapt TV.
Dynamic trading model, the programmatic private marketplace. We don't want to get into what it all means, but what does it mean for advertisers? Is that all good news? Does it mean you need to integrate, relate less to the ad reps?
There's probably no other industry on earth that likes to complicate its life more than we do. You know, we invent acronyms every day and bring new technologies. Look, the impact of technology to our industry, like all industries, is phenomenal. In terms of a media planner buyer, if you think about the role that they did 3 years ago, 5 years ago, to what they do today, the change is incredible. If you think about it in the next 3 to 5 years, it's quite scary, but it's good, and the good media buyers who embrace technology, who are creative and have a good analytical brain, are in a really strong position in the next few years.
So it helps the advertiser. Say it's Mr. X makes a car, you're going to sell more cars because you'll target his potentials better and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, clients are demanding more transparency, more clear ROI for every dollar they invest, and if technology and data and new skills can help us do that, as we at Group M identified 7 or 8 years ago and invested heavily in data and technology because we realised the way the world was going and the expectation of a client on a media agency.
And do you need MCN more with the changes they've been putting in place, or do you interact with them less because you can do a lot of it now?
I think media sales in general, there was a notion that there's going to be a wipeout of salespeople and it'll be computers talking to computers. And there's a degree of truth in that. But I think the likelihood is a few of the traditional roles that we may have been used to will go. But they'll be replaced. And you'll see new roles, new people, new skill sets. Again, people with strong analytical skills, people who understand and are comfortable with technology. Because they're going to be dealing with similar people in agencies who we've had to recruit and develop and launch new businesses. So I don't think you'll see a shrinking of numbers. You'll just see new roles, new skills.
Now, we talked a little bit about to Anthony, the 100,000 panel. Is that data, because of the IQ box, I guess, they're in a unique position to detail all that data. Are there other media players that sort of can get access to that sort of size research about their audiences?
Media's always been a data-driven business. I mean, we had big data before we came up with a name for big data. So, again, all media channels are going through a similar exercise. I think the fact that MCN can tap into 100,000 people in their homes and tell us what they're doing, where they're doing it, and what they're watching is incredibly powerful. I think a good example is probably their partnership with Telstra. If you combine Telstra data with set-top box data, that sets them up really well. But all media owners are aware of this, and each in different levels, different degrees, have invested heavily in technology to articulate their data proposition and audience proposition to us.
I just want to ask you too about the Adapt TV that the MCN's doing as well, this sort of trading linear and online at the same time. How is that sort of game-changing as well?
Well, programmatic has been the buzzword of the year. Obviously, in the digital space, we've been doing this for some time, doing it really successfully. You're seeing digital out of home, streaming radio in that space as well. TV is probably the last bastion in terms of who will move into that space. But it's a space now that is occupied by people like YouTube as well, Facebook and their big launch and big push into video. So the TV networks globally have not been quick on the uptake of this, and I understand why. It's our role with people like Adapt and others in that space to demonstrate where the opportunity is and, like every media organisation, what the impact that could have on the P&L.
I didn't get anywhere asking Anthony about the, speculation Discovery and Foxtel might be involved in 10, but let's say that did happen and MCN had the contract to sell 10 as well as all the subscription TV channels. Is that a good thing for advertisers, or does it make much difference?
I think if's the key word there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of conjecture around this.
Yeah.
We need, our clients need strong media channels. We need variety, we need options, and we need good content. As an outsider looking in, 10 Foxtel coming together makes perfect sense. I should disclose Foxtel as a client about
Foxtel. Oh, you mean
yeah. So that makes perfect sense, but who knows? They'll may have 2 sales teams, 1 sales team. MCN certainly bring a lot to the party in terms of their investment in landmark, Adapt TV, data technology. 10 brings scale, so put together, it's a very strong opportunity.
Just finally, while we've got you too, wanted to ask you your thoughts on the outlook for ad spend in 2015.
Well, if you'd have asked us 6 months ago, we probably had a more black hat approach. Certainly seeing some green shoots, not big growth, probably maybe 1.5%. But as Fitzy was saying in the break then, there's a lot of factors outside of Australia we can't control, which will have a big impact on growth for next year.
Yeah, so it's strange, isn't it? I mean, here we are in November and we're almost saying it's still too early to call, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
I mean, the market is incredibly short term. That's not great for us. It's certainly not great for the media owners, but it's a reflection of where we are in the economy.
Really appreciate you coming on the program. Thank you so much for that. Danny Bass there from Group M. Coming up on Media Week, we'll also bring you James Manning's interview too with Mark Frayne, National Sales Director at MC.